So now we're going to explore the preterite and the imperfect. So the preterite, I mean, it's probably the scariest of the tenses that exist. I'm not going to lie. Whereas the imperfect is probably one of the easiest. So, because it has the fewest irregulars. So with the preterite, there are these, I wrote here the regular endings. So you have hasta o, amos hastais aron. And then for ER, you have I, iste, io, imos, iste, istes, ieron. I'll fix that. So, istes, ieron. So, so these are regular. So, like, hablar is regular, comer is regular. But I mean, there are so many irregulars that I didn't write them down. So I'll show you on this piece of paper. As you see right there, number 2. So number 1 was the regulars. Number 2 are the kargar zar, which means they're irregular only in the yo form, and they're, you know, if they end in kar, gar, or zar, then they change to ke, ge, or se, based on those endings. Next is the istar crowd, which is a group of, I think, 12 verbs, and they're split into 4 sets. Let's see. There are 4 sets, and they have the normal preterite endings, but they don't have, and they're not normal. Never mind. But they're iste, o, imos, istes, ieron. Sorry, because my camera's not focusing on this. But you know, examples are hacer, decir, traer, and so forth. Poner. Next are ser and estar, which are fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fuistes, fueron. Just, you know, they have the same conjugation there. For dar and ver, they have the normal ER endings, just without the accents. Then you have verbs like creer, which have accents on all the forms except for the eos form, and then in the bottom 2 forms, the third person, they have a y instead of an I in that case. Also here verbs like construir, so those that end in UIR, they have accents only in the yo and l form, and y's in the bottom 2 forms again. And then for verbs like career, there are 2 vowels before the final R in the verb. And then there are the stem changes, which I mentioned earlier in the video about the present progressive, where they're only the IR verbs that stem change in the present. And if it changes from E to IE or E to I in the present, then it changes from E to I in the preterite. And if it changes from O to UE in the present, it changes from O to U in the preterite. And it's only in the third person. Okay, so that's... I'm sorry for the bad video quality at that point, but I mean, it's a lot of information, and you have to remember it. So, the imperfect is not that hard. For if you have an AR verb, you have aba, abas, aba, abamos, abais, aba. So, you know, if you have ablaba, ablabas, ablaba, and so on. And then in the ER-IR, you have ia, ias, ia, iamos, iais, ian. That's the same as the conditional endings as well. So you have comia, comias, comia, and so on. And then, you only have 3 irregulars. Ser changes to era, eras, era, éramos, erais, eran. Make sure there's an accent on the nosotros form on the e. And then ir is iba, ibas, iba, ibamos, ibais, iban, accent on the I in the nosotros. And then ver, it's basically it's normal here. It keeps the e from its stem. So that's the conjugations of the preterite and imperfect. Now the uses are also quite complicated because, you know, you kind of use them in different senses. The imperfect is kind of, I guess you could say, shady. You don't really know when it happened in the past. You just know that it happened some point in the past, and so it would go for an ongoing action in the past, background, description, emotions, weather, and simultaneous acts. So like 2 actions happening at the same time. The preterite is more defined. It's you had an action that was, it's basically the completed action tense, And so you have things that are sequential, so like one after another, events that happen one after another. If you know the end point of that verb, then you use the preterite. If you know how long it was, you use the preterite. And if it's interrupting another action, then it's in the preterite. So a common construction is ongoing interrupting, where you have a verb in the imperfect, that something's happening, and then something interrupts it, and then you conjugate that in the preterite. So that's the preterite and imperfect. It's kind of intimidating, but if you study these irregulars, you'll do fine.